Welcome to Creating a Competitive Analysis. My name is Jillian Robbins. Today's session will introduce you to creating a competitive analysis using free library resources. You will learn how to begin researching your competitors by identifying top competitors and evaluating their strategies to determine their strengths and weaknesses relative to those of your own product or service. Over the next hour and a half, we will discuss how to identify your industry competitors, profiling your key competition, and how to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors against your company. I encourage you to explore our website and resources after class and email us at bric@freelibrary.org with additional questions. Again, my name is Jillian Robbins. I'm the Business Services Supervisor in the Business Resource and Innovation Center, or BRIC. Previously, I was a business librarian and then program coordinator for job-seeking services in the BRIC. I've worked for the Free Library of Philadelphia for almost 7 years. Long before COVID-19 was on our minds, BRIC moved into a new state-of-the-art space on the ground floor of Parkway Central Library a little bit over a year ago in April 2019. Our new space offers a collaborative work environment with comfortable furniture and free Wi-Fi. We also have meeting rooms that can be reserved for free. We look forward to welcoming you back into the BRIC when it's safe to return. In the BRIC, we break business research into 3 major topics, including market research, competitive analysis, and demographic research. These are the 3 core research topics that librarians can provide guidance on. Each of these topics is its own class. I taught Introduction to Market Research in June, and I will teach Introduction to Demographic Research next month on September 16th. Today we're going to explore competitive analysis. And before we jump in, I want to define competitive analysis a little bit more. So let's determine the definition of a competitive analysis and talk about why it's important. In your competitive analysis section of your business plan or growth plan, you will identify businesses with similar services and/or products to your own business. You will also identify businesses that are marketing and/or selling to your intended target audience. Once you identify these businesses, you will evaluate their strengths to determine their strengths and weaknesses relative to those of your own product or service. Aim to have between 3 and 10 top competitors to analyze in depth. That in-depth analysis will be your competitive analysis. In other words, when you start a business, you have a vision of what your product or service is going to be. But it's also important to ask yourself, who am I competing against? Whenever you are providing a service or creating a product that people are willing to spend money on, there will always be other companies who are fighting for the same customers by providing a similar service or creating a similar product. For example, Uber, Lyft, taxis, and other car services are all providing their customers with car transportation services. Therefore, they are direct competitors. In addition to direct competitors, most industries and industry sectors will also have indirect competitors. For example, art galleries, museums, and concert halls can all be considered indirect competitors. Even though the offerings of these different businesses can be quite varied, they all fulfill the same customer need, which is cultural or educational entertainment. We'll talk more about direct and indirect competitors in a few minutes. So why do we have to create a competitive analysis? The competitive analysis is a fundamental component of a business plan. Every business plan should include this section. Identifying weaknesses in the existing market is essential to marketing campaigns and enticing your target markets because you are solving a problem for the client better than your competitors. For example, this could be by advertising a better price, enhanced type of product or service, better customer service and experience, or ease of access. For example, online businesses should be taking note of navigation and the look and feel of their competitors' apps and web pages, in addition to their pricing and offerings. Because when products and prices are similar, people will buy from the site with a better or easier user experience. Understanding all the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors will allow you to come up with a strategy that will satisfy your customers' needs. You may identify areas of potential opportunities or locations by studying similar businesses and find that there's a gap in services in a certain area that you might be able to fill by selecting a specific location. You might also identify potential threats to your business by finding that there is a similar product or service operating or opening nearby or encroaching on your target market. Finally, it is helpful to forecast profitability and market outlook by identifying the number of competitive businesses nearby. For example, you might find that you need to undercut your competitors' prices or offer different amenities if you're located in a highly competitive field or area. You might expect to have a lower profit margin to start in a highly competitive field or area. Also, some businesses, such as bars, do well when there are other similar businesses nearby. But some businesses, such as laundromats, succeed when they are the only option in an area. Once you identify your competitors, you can use these companies to benchmark your financials. Researching your competitors' financials can give you a rough estimate of how much revenue you can expect, how many people you will need to hire, and rough estimates of what you should be spending on key business expenses, such as insurance. Now that we now can identify a competitive analysis, let's discuss how to identify competitors. Remember, there are two ways to identify your competitors, and both are important to your analysis. Direct competitors, also known as demand-side based, are the obvious competitors comprised of businesses satisfying the same set of customer needs. Think of Pizza Hut and Domino's Pizza, for example. Both sell pizzas. Therefore, they are direct competitors. Indirect competitors, also known as supply-side based, are businesses whose customers, resource base, technology, and operations are similar to your own, but not an exact match. Think of Domino's and McDonald's. They sell pizzas and hamburgers, respectively. However, they both target hungry customers who want quick service and a cheap price. Therefore, they are indirect competitors. Indirect competitors also include businesses that are not necessarily today's immediate competitors, but also those that are just over the horizon. I like to mention the famous story about Blockbuster and Netflix when discussing indirect competitors. When Netflix was a new company, they approached the biggest game in video rental, Blockbuster, about partnering. Blockbuster turned them down because they thought streaming movies would never take off. Well, now Netflix is one of the most valuable companies in the country, and Blockbuster is but a memory relegated to one location in Bend, Oregon. Creating a competitive analysis is not a one-time only activity. It needs to be continuously refined and updated. Don't forget to read the writing on the wall. Don't be a Blockbuster. Keep these questions in mind as you begin and refine your research. What are your competitors' strengths? What are your competitors' weaknesses? Where are your competitors located? What do they sell and at what price? What marketing platforms and messages do they use? How do others view your competitors' products or services? How do they view the company in general? I find it helpful to create a spreadsheet. Others like to create a board or a color-coded system. Do what makes it manageable for you to conduct and to understand. I'll show you a couple of examples towards the end of today's presentation. It can be easy to become frustrated when researching companies. Keep in mind that publicly traded companies are easier to research than private companies because they are required to publish some data in annual reports to investors. Researching your competition involves using company and industry resources, as well as your own professional knowledge. A list of companies won't do you much good if you don't have any information on them, specifically, or on your industry in general. It's also important to rely on some of the knowledge you've gathered through learned experiences as a professional or an entrepreneur. For example, don't jump into opening a coffee shop without ever having worked in one. Some companies are easier to research than others. Be innovative and flexible in your search. According to the balance, as of 2019, approximately 46% of small businesses did not have a website. It can be hard to research a business if they don't have an online presence. It's important to get creative by using review sites like Yelp and Google, as well as physically going to locations to experience the business's operations in person. Get creative. It's okay to visit or call a place of business to inquire about their services. Act as if you are an interested client or customer. I personally visit as many libraries as possible, especially if they offer business services. Let's start diving into the resources that will help you to answer the research questions. During the next hour or so, we're going to cover 6 major resources and tools. Remember, this class is meant to provide an overview of the resources. I encourage you to take a deep dive and practice using them on your own. Practice makes perfect. We're going to begin with industry classification codes to help us identify our industry and effectively search for businesses. Next, we will move to Reference USA. Reference USA is a database that will help us generate lists of businesses by location, industry, sales volume, and more. Then on to Mergent Intellect Advanced Search to search for additional information on businesses. Next, Simply Analytics will provide data on business and people within a small area. We'll quickly discuss how to use YELP to discover what the customer really thinks of a business. And finally, we'll talk about BRIC services and how we can be of further assistance to you. All of these resources together, along with your professional experiences and knowledge, will help you create a comprehensive competitive analysis and business plan. Industry classification codes, brought to you by the U.S. Census Bureau, are the government's way of classifying every industry for research and statistical purposes. It is at its core a research tool. These codes define businesses based on the activities in which they are primarily engaged. You can find your code in a couple of different ways. You can find it in a big, thick directory with Bible-thin pages, not my personal favorite route. You can use census.gov/NAICS to browse and keyword search. You can also search one of the free library's databases, Reference USA, to search competitors and similar businesses to replicate their codes. We'll talk more about Reference USA in a bit. Finally, you can always use good old Google to search, but do make sure you check the results against census.gov/NAICS because sometimes it's an outdated number or it's just plain wrong. There are 2 different types of industry classification codes, SIC, the Standard Industrial Classification, and NAICS, or NAICS, the North American Industry Classification System. NAICS is the current classification system used by the federal government for classifying businesses. It groups establishments into industries based on the similarity of their products, services, and production. The NAICS was updated in 2017, and we can expect another update in 2022. NAICS can be frustrating because it's quite broad. SIC is the older classification system. It's not much different from NAICS, but it is more specific. NAICS replaced SIC in 1997 when many industries were new and it became too much to classify many of the newer tech and .com related industries. Several data sets are still available with SIC-based data, but nearly all market research on industries is searchable only by NAICS. Remember, the major difference between SIC and NAICS classification is that NAICS tends to be broader, where SIC tends to be more specific, especially when it comes to new and emerging industries. Using census.gov/NAICS can be cumbersome, but you can use it to search by keyword or number or code. You can search from 2 to 6 numbers. For example, I know the number 72 is accommodation and food services. So I can type 72 into the search box to see all the industries that fall under that major category. We'll look at an example of a restaurant that falls under that category, number 72, in a moment. Here's an example of a restaurant industry classification code. Blackbird Pizzeria is a full-service restaurant located in Northern Liberties. Its NAICS code is 722511, full-service restaurant. Its SIC codes are 581208, restaurants, and 581222, pizza. The NAICS code is quite broad here. Full-service restaurant, whereas the SIC code is much more specific, pizza. The good news, you can search for competitors using Reference USA by searching for SIC codes, but your industry information will be based on NAICS codes. It's okay if it's not a perfect match. Many databases have the option to search by these codes, and by using them, you can locate information about businesses in that industry, including your competitors. Different databases may use slightly different codes to identify a business or industry, and there will be inconsistencies across databases. So it's important to be flexible. The next three resources we're going to discuss are free library databases that you can access with your library card number and PIN. You can access BRIC's business resources via our website at freelibrary.org/business. From freelibrary.org/business, you can access sample documents, such as an example of a business plan, links to helpful online resources by subject, and of course, our databases. Click on the red Premier Business Databases link to access the databases. That link will take you to this databases page. Notice it filters the databases to those specifically for business and entrepreneurs. You can also filter it to subjects such as digital media, digital magazines, online learning, and more. Once you click on a blue database link, you'll be asked to enter your library card number and PIN if you are off-site away from the library. If you do not have a library card, you can get a library card on freelibrary.org. The login and get a free library card options will always be on the upper right-hand side of every free library website. To begin conducting a competitive analysis, we use Reference USA. Reference USA is a collection of databases. It's a powerhouse of information on consumer and business data. It's essentially a tool for building lists. In the case of competitive analysis, we're building a list of businesses that are your direct and indirect competitors. It's going to blow your Google search out of the water. Thankfully, once you've used one Reference USA database, you've used them all. They all function very similarly, and the features are much the same. For the purposes of conducting a competitive analysis, Reference USA has two main databases, US businesses and US new businesses. The database suite contains a total of 58 million business listings, and it can also help to identify areas of economic development if you see a lot of businesses thriving and are opening in an area. It's a hyperlocal tool that reveals details on cities and neighborhoods. Using the advanced search feature, you can fully customize your search to find competitive businesses by location, sales volume, industry classification codes, and more. After you customize your search, you can view the results as a list, chart, or heat map, and continually refine to a larger or smaller area to fit your needs. The default list results will actually generate a list of businesses and their locations. Clicking on a result will give you more detailed information on the business. You can also create a free account so you can save your work. You can download your results, but downloads are limited to 50 results off-site and 150 results on-site at the free library. So saving your searches is helpful. Reference USA is also updated weekly. And much like Reference USA, US businesses, US new businesses is a hyperlocal customizable database used to build a list of potential competitors. You can search for businesses that have opened within the last 2 years up to the last week. Remember, it's important to regularly research your competitors, current and future, continuously refine and update. It can also help to identify areas of economic development if you see a lot of businesses that have recently opened in an area. It can also help to identify trends if a particular type of industry has opened in an area at high rates. If you are conducting market research and identified an area as a target, then it's safe to assume other entrepreneurs before you have too. So we're going to pop out of our presentation here now, and we are going to look at some of our databases. So from freelibrary.org/business, you'll see our homepage. If you scroll down past our documents, you can click on that Premier Business Databases link, and that will take you to our business and entrepreneurs databases. So from here, they're listed alphabetically. We're going to look at Reference USA, US businesses, and US new businesses. So from home, at this point, it will ask you for your library card number and PIN. And once you enter that, you will be brought to the databases page. We're going to start with US businesses. And every Reference USA database is going to default to this quick search. We don't want to use this to build a list. We want to use the advanced search. So when you click on the advanced search tab, it will take you to our list making page. Here on the left-hand side, you will see all the items that you can customize your search by. Your most basic search is going to be by business type and geography, so industry and location. You'll notice there are some other pieces of things you can search by as well, including business size. So you can search for sales volume or the number of employees a business has. You can search by ownership, including public or private company, if it's a headquarter, branch, or a single location business. Special selects include if a business has a website, how long they've been established, and what their square footage is. And you can even exclude items. For example, if you're searching for Philadelphia, you can omit certain zip codes that you know people won't be coming into. Maybe the Northeast, where people aren't going to come to South Philly to your business. You can just totally omit that. And you can even omit certain industries. So if you want to search for restaurants, but not mobile food services, you can omit the NAICS code or the SIC code for mobile food. Very, very customizable. Definitely play around with this. Anytime you select an item, for example, business type, it will populate here in the center for further customization. Here, you can also include something like company name. If you didn't know your NAICS code or your SIC code, you could search for a company here and look at their profile, look at their industry, and see how they're classifying themselves. And you can do this with any business in the country. One thing that will always persist is this record type box. It defaults here to verified businesses. And this is Reference USA's way of saying that the businesses that are included in the search are fully verified by them. They're phone verified and quality checked. If you click on unverified businesses, we're going to pop up to about 58 million businesses from 15 million, because of course it's impossible to verify every business in the country. And this is a hyper-local database. So they're pulling from businesses that maybe aren't fully verified, not totally accurate, but they know that there's something there. There's also the option for closed and out of business records. Can be really useful if you're seeing if in an area a lot of businesses have been closing frequently, they're not really succeeding, or if you're looking to open up, say, a restaurant and you want to rent a restaurant that's recently closed, maybe you can get a deal. For today, we're going to stick with verified businesses, but I encourage when you're using Reference USA to search thoroughly, search differently, and really just try it many different ways. So we're going to do our basic search here. We're going to search by business type and geography. So we're going to select business type. It defaults to SIC codes. Remember, those are the more specific codes that were updated in 1997. So we're going to stick with NAICS codes. So this is a really good keyword search here. You have the option of typing in something like restaurant and playing with the codes. So I'm looking at the 6-digit codes right now. see if it loads here. So you have the option to keyword search by restaurant, or you can type in the specific code. You can search 72722 and get really comfortable with your codes. Let's see if it's going to load for me. While that's loading, I'll also let you know you can search all codes or primary codes. And that difference is going to be if you're searching, for example, electronic stores, what you're going to receive here for all, you will get things like Target and Walmart because they are electronic stores, they are food stores, they're a little bit of everything. They have a lot of different NAICS codes. If you're searching primary codes only and you're looking for electronic store, you're going to get more PC Richards and Best Buy types of stores because that is their primary industry. So play around with that as well. So here we can see our 722 has loaded, starting with that general 722 accommodation and food services. And if you scroll down, you'll see the full range of different NAICS codes. So here I want restaurants and full service restaurants. You can also expand that a little bit. You can click on multiples if you'd like. I just want to look specifically at full service restaurants for now. So once you highlight something in blue, it will show up under selected. Now on the right-hand side here, you can click update count and view results. To see if you click update count in real time, it will give you your results on how many records are included in your search. So right now, without putting any location in, we have almost 550,000 verified restaurants in the country. If we pop on that unverified, it's going to go way up to almost 1.7 million. So now let's add in some geography. So again, it's very customizable. You have the option to open a map and add your own search criteria. Maybe you have a certain corridor in mind. You can search by the city, the whole city of Philadelphia, or multiple cities. You can search by metro area, zip codes. You can even search by radius. Radius is a really cool search because you can put in an address or just a zip code, and you can include a radius of anything from 0.1 to 150 miles around that radius. We know Philadelphia isn't, it's a city of neighborhoods. We definitely can put in something like 19123, put in a 2-mile radius, and we can get something like Old City, Northern Liberty, Fishtown, and Kensington, and maybe even a little bit of Center City in that radius. So it can be really, really useful. For today, we're just going to look at Philadelphia. So I've selected city and state. Here you can either select by state and go from there, or you can type in your location. We typed in Philadelphia, highlighted in blue, and it's under selected. If we update our count this time, we're down to almost 4,000 records. And from here, you could also put in things like sales volume or a public-private company. Maybe we only want privately owned restaurants. And if we select headquarter branch, if we just want to see single location restaurants, we can do that too. But for now, we're happy with our results. We have almost 4,000. Let's go ahead and click View Results to enter our list. So here we have our list of restaurants. If we see this little sign here, this means it's corporate owned, publicly traded most likely. So here we have our general list in alphabetical order, starting with numbers. Let's take a look at one record. Let's look at One Shot Coffee here. Now looking at one record, we'll see it's verified. You get some general location information. Here's their industry profile. These are those NAICS and SIC codes. So if I searched by company and typed in One Shot Coffee, this is exactly what I would get. And this is how we can start to think about our industry profile. So yes, they're a full service restaurant. They serve, lunch and breakfast, but they're also a coffee shop. So coffee shops in NAICS code speak are snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, essentially a coffee bar. SIC code speak is a little more upfront, just a coffee shop. So we have some options here to search. Below that, the bigger and more successful the company is generally, the more information will be complete. So we have a business profile, we have some business demographics that will tell us some sales volume information and employee information. Keep in mind, sales volume, especially with restaurants, isn't always 1,000% accurate. Reference USA is getting data from, tax refunds, IRS. So whatever they are claiming is what will be showing up on their sales volume. Here we get a management directory, business expenditures, estimates on what they might be spending on things like accounting and utilities. And you won't see much company news and stock data unless it's a publicly traded company. Get some nice charts on sales volume and employee size, as well as some business history. Business history can be interesting because you can see if a business has changed locations over the years, maybe they've expanded. You can see if they've changed managers or owners or phone numbers. Here we can see One Shot moved from George Street up to 2nd Street. And one of my favorite things about the individual records is the competitors report. Now, this is prepared by Reference USA. The entrepreneur has not provided this information, but they are pulling competitors based on location, industry, size, and sales volume. So coffee shops are kind of a dime a dozen in Northern Liberties and Fishtown area. So we can see here there are lots of cafes all located in the same zip code. So if it's a less competitive business or something very unique, say a boutique eyewear store, something like that, you'll see that their competitors are much more spread out. Things like coffee shops that rely heavily on foot traffic and are condensed into neighborhoods, you'll see they're much more on top of each other. So this particular business has quite a bit of competition, including with Starbucks right in the area there. They also have some nearby businesses. So what's near One Shot Cafe here, kind of close by. Interesting to look, it gives you the primary business. So there are quite a few restaurants in the area as well on 2nd Street. Really interesting information. But we're not going to go through, 4,000 records of coffee shops and restaurants, right, in the city. So a couple of things you can do here. You can select all of your records, and you have some other options up here on the toolbar. You can save your search. Highly recommend that. It will ask you to create a free username, and you'll have to select a password, but then you can log in and access the search anytime. You have the option to download your records. You can fully customize the kind of information you'd like to display when you download. Again, you can download 50 offsite or 150 if you're physically in the library. And you can do them in batches, so it's just 50 at a time. So here you can customize, maybe you don't need to know the record type because we know they're all verified, but maybe you want some information on sales volume, owner name, or industry code, website. Whatever you'd like to have, you can add that to your spreadsheet on this side. And then you can email or download your records to Excel. You also have the option to create a heat map. I love this feature, especially when you're searching a large area like an entire city. You can see we looked at restaurants. So of course, many restaurants are located in Center City. But if we were still interested in that Northern Liberties kind of Fishtown area, we can zoom in on the map and see what's going on in the community. So here's Northern Liberties. And once you get close enough, you actually have the option to click on a record individually and see what's there. And you can click and get their records. You can click and get that full page again. It will also change your information on the side over here as you move forward. If you see a plus sign, that means that there are restaurants kind of on top of each other or close together. And you can break those up by expanding. So here we can see kind of 2nd Street, lots of restaurants along that area. One Shot's kind of down here a little bit. There we go, there's One Shot. You can also scroll down and see your top results by zip code. So the most numerous amount of restaurants are in 19107 in Old City. That makes sense. Followed by kind of East Passyunk, Queen Village area in 19147. With the least amount of restaurants in 19006. And you can download this map as well. You can download it or print it in any view. And you can generate the map to download for location, sales volume, or number of employees. Sometimes it changes the map a lot, sometimes it doesn't. If we scroll back out here, get our heat map, we can see who's making the most money, where are the restaurants that are making money, and it's pretty concentrated still in Center City. There's not a lot of big hitters kind of out in the neighborhoods at this point compared to Center City. So really interesting information. Here, if you go back to our results, we can continuously refine our search. Now, don't use your browser buttons here. Make sure you're using the database buttons, because you can go back and now maybe instead of searching Philadelphia, we want to remove city and state, and we want to instead hone in on some zip codes. So here you can type in your zip code, something like 19123 or 19125, however many zip codes you would like. And you can also eliminate, if you want to get more specific with restaurants, maybe you want to look at one of the other codes we saw, like buffets and cafeterias. You can go more in that direction as well. So you can continuously refine and perfect your search. Going back to the Reference USA homepage, I want to show you US new businesses as well. Once you've mastered US businesses, you will be an absolute pro at Reference USA, because US businesses is just so customizable that there's so many options. Here we have less options just because it's newer. There's newer businesses and there's less information about them. So again, using the Advanced Search tab should look a lot more familiar now. Here we have the option to search by business type, and here it's SIC or keyword only, as well as by geography again. So let's go ahead and let's find out some more information about restaurants. So here are the SIC codes. We can scroll down and see everything that includes restaurants. Let's just generally select restaurants. And instead of looking at the whole city this time, let's look at a neighborhood. Let's look at 19147. We saw how many restaurants were concentrated in that area. So here, if we update our count, we have 4 restaurants that have recently opened, and we can refine that a little bit based on our date ranges. It defaults to the last 6 months, but let's expand that to the last 2 years. So we selected 2 years from date ranges. Let's update our count again. Still 4, okay, that's all right. We could even, if we don't want to look just at the zip code, we can even transfer that out and look at the city in general. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, update our count. Now we have 106. And if we wanted to look, maybe that's too many. Let's see if any have opened in the last month. We've had 7, even during coronavirus. We have 7 businesses, 7 restaurants. So you can kind of compare and contrast. Let's go back to our neighborhood. Go back to East Passyunk here, Queen Village, 19147, and back to 2 years. So let's look at these 4 businesses and see exactly what's opened. So if we view our results, we only have 4 results here, and we can see what's going on. So let's look at the Amazing Crab House. Clicking on one record here, you're going to find just a lot less information because they are new, but they have 4 employees, they have their address and their name, and that's about it. But good news is, if you had more businesses here, you can still save your search, download your records, and generate a heat map. The heat map can be really interesting if you're looking at the whole city, for example, and you want to see, you don't have to include any industry if you don't want to. Let's take out restaurants. Let's just look at any business that's opened in the last year in 19147. We have 58. If we view our results this time and select all of our results, we can look at a heat map of 19147 and see if there are any areas where a lot of businesses have opened. So I'm seeing a little bit of a hot spot right here. So we have 7 businesses that have opened on East Passyunk Ave. That makes sense. There's a great business corridor there. It's a lot of great stuff going on down there, really popular, and we can see the kinds of businesses that have opened right around here. We also have some other clusters here. We have 2 right on top of each other here. So it can be really interesting to see, where things are opening. Again, that's a great economic indicator. So that's Reference USA for competitive analysis. Go ahead and pop back into our presentation here and move to our next database. Next, we're visiting Mergent Intellect Advanced Search. The Advanced Search page lets you refine your search in various ways. You can drill down into your search to get as granular as you might need. Reference USA truly provides the best hyperlocal information on small businesses, but Mergent Intellect Advanced Search provides the best detail on medium and large size businesses. I recommend starting in Reference USA because it's easier to use and will give you more results. It's also easier to use to hone in on and revise your search. You can then use Mergent Intellect Advanced Search to search your refined location again to find more information on mid and large size competitors in your area. Here you can search a little more specifically using information such as if they own or rent their location, if they're minority or female owned, and their subsidiary status, in addition to that basic information like location, industry size, and keyword searching. When you click on the results, especially for larger companies, you will get more details, especially on finances and executive details. However, don't expect these kinds of details for mom and pop shops. Let's go ahead and go back to our databases here. So we're looking at Mergent Intellect this time, not to be confused with Mergent Online. Mergent Intellect is also a collection of databases similar to Reference USA. But here we're going to look at Advanced Search. So when we click on Advanced Search, it looks very different than Reference USA. So here we have some options. Your most basic search, again, here would be to search by company name. Say you've identified your competitors using Reference USA. You can search by company. For example, let's look at Comcast. So you're entering in Comcast, and then you add it to your search criteria. Of course, we have 2,100 companies that are found. Let's go ahead and click search. And our first result is the Comcast Corporation. Now, if you click on their results, we're going to have lots and lots of information here because it's a large company. Like I said, Mergent Intellect is most useful for large and mid-sized companies. So here we're going to get a nice overview, some news that's generated for the business, key information, including how many employees they have, where they're located, sales volume, industry codes, it's a headquarter location, publicly traded. We even get some job listings and rankings like Fortune and S&P. Going back over, that's just our company overview. We can also look at financial details for Comcast, lots of scary information here, industry information, more information on their SIC and NAICS codes, executive details, who's in charge and what their roles are. So here we can scroll through people, officers, and directors and see what their compensation history is and how they're paid that compensation. And a family tree, so other businesses that Comcast owns. We know they own quite a few. They have 2,400 family members. So you can expand that record here. Oops, come on. Just worked a second ago. I'm impatient. Well, anyway, you can expand that and you can see everything that they own, all 2,400. So that's one specific record. And of course, you can download this and print it. If we want to do more of a research search, let's back in Advanced Search, you wouldn't search by company name, but here instead, let's clear all this, we can search by location. So here it's a little more convoluted. If you want to search by city, you have to select city, enter the name. So let's look at good old Philadelphia here, and then add that to your criteria. And you'll show that down below. So here we have 192,000 businesses showing up just for Philadelphia. And then you can refine that. So you can select something like home-based businesses. You could search by zip code or radius again. You can add in information on the industry here. So you can decide SIC code or NAICS code. And from here, you have a lot of different options, which is kind of nice. You could enter multiple NAICS codes if you know them. You can do a nice keyword search. They have a great keyword search as well. So here, if we're typing in restaurant, it's going to give us everything starting with restaurant or by code. And you can also do the NAICS tree. So this is just a nicer version of what's on census.gov/NAICS. So here, again, using 7.2, that's accommodation of food services. You can expand that there, and you can kind of keep expanding and going on and through and through. You also have the option, you can select all 7-2 businesses, all accommodation and food services, or you can select all food services and drinking places, or just restaurants and other eating places. Very customizable. So if we want to look at all matters of food services in Philadelphia, we would select that 722. And we'd add that to our criteria. And now down below, you'll see it updates. We have 112,000 companies in Philadelphia using the NAICS code 722. And you can do that for SIC or NAICS, and you can add multiples. You can also add in information like size if you want to add in sales volume, employees, employment, and you can make this annual sales say over $500,000. Let's look at our heavier hitters, greater to or equal than. Add that to our criteria. That's going to cut us way down. We have 516 companies. And you can go through and you can add in even more. You can do some financial information. You can add in some keyword searching from the company's description. You can add in some executive criteria about the industry, add in your saved searches. It can be really, really interesting. You can add in if you want them to be minority owned or women owned, or if you want to see if they own or rent their location. There's a lot in this one. Let's go ahead and see how many people. There's no one who rents probably at that stage. Let's see. So, okay, we have 200 businesses that rent. Let's see how many are female owned. Down to 9. So now we have a very specific search here. We have companies in Philadelphia that rent their locations that are owned by women in Philadelphia in the food industry that make $500,000 or more. So once you're happy with your criteria, you can click search, and it will take us to our search results. Some nice charts up top. We have different tabs where we can look at ownership type for these businesses. That will change your chart a little bit. We asked, of course, that they own their business, so it's 100%. Location, headquarters versus single location, lots of cool information. We only asked for one industry, but we're breaking it down. You see 722, which is what we asked for, but it will break it down a little further. So here we have limited service, caterers, and full service. And of course, we also have our companies over on the side here. So let's take a look at White Dog. So for example, if we click on White Dog, just like Comcast, you will see their information, a little more key information here. Woman owned, stuff that we asked for. Marketing pre-screen, least likely to pay, always interesting to see. So we have their detailed company information, some financial details, like sales volume, industry information. They only have one NAICS code and SIC code. Information on the executive. So here's the owner of White Dog. You can click on that for more information about her. Don't want to totally give away too much about her during this webinar. And it's their family tree if they own anything else. So it looks like she owns 2 locations, one in Wayne and one in Philadelphia. And you can download all of this information as well as download the entire general list. So this one's a little more cumbersome than Reference USA, but it gives you a little more detail, but your very small businesses are not going to show up. Let's go ahead and go back into our presentation again. So Reference USA and Mergent Intellect are both at their core list-making tools, but there are some important differences to note. Reference USA tends to be more accurate when it comes to locating relevant businesses using industry code searching. The keyword search for both NAICS and SIC are very easy to use and accurate. Reference USA is really great when you are exploring competitors, whereas Mergent Intellect is great if you already have some competitors in mind. There are more businesses listed in Reference USA, and it's updated more frequently. However, many companies self-report sales figures to receive Dun & Bradstreet credit ratings. These tend to be more accurate than the figures found in Reference USA because Reference USA is pulling from the IRS and not all businesses report honestly, if at all. Reference USA is hyperlocal, so more and very small and/or new businesses tend to be listed compared to a Mergent Intellect. Mergent Intellect tends to list more medium, large-sized companies, and medium and large-sized companies have more oversight and data, so there's more search criteria to be included. The larger the company, the more information that is available. Reference USA is easier to navigate overall, but the keyword searching is a little smarter in Mergent Intellect. Overall, I recommend using Reference USA first, and then going through to refine your search with Mergent. Reference USA will help narrow your search to one or a couple of zip codes or neighborhoods, or to a smaller pool of competitors. You can then search your results in Mergent Intellect for more information on the companies, or for specific information like if they rent or own, if they're minority owned, or if they are female owned. The next database we're going to look at is Simply Analytics. Simply Analytics provides what I like to call hardcore demographics. It's a very advanced web-based mapping, analytics, and data visualization tool. There are more than 75,000 data variables related to businesses, demographics, employment, housing, market segments, consumer spending, brand preferences, and public health. This database is usually only available to use in the BRIC, but our friends at Simply Analytics provided remote access for as long as the library is physically closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Use it at home while you can. I recommend that you already know a little bit about your competitors and even about your target audience before diving into Simply Analytics. Get to know where businesses like yours are already operating using Reference USA and the heat map in Reference USA to narrow your search by zip code, especially since you can only view one variable at a time using Simply Analytics. For example, a useful search for someone opening a grocery store with a focus on international foods would be able to find businesses by NAICS code or SIC code using the code 445110, which is supermarkets, as well as ethnically diverse people living within a zip code. You can explore data by topic or by keyword search. Additionally, you can view your data on a map, comparison chart, ranking chart, or produce a demographic and housing overview. Each view can be downloaded to an Excel file or as a PDF. Simply Analytics does take some getting used to because it has an overwhelming amount of information. We're just going to touch on its capabilities. Let's pop into another database. Looking at Simply Analytics this time. So I do recommend creating an account. It's totally free. And once you log into your own account, you can access and save a little bit more information, but you can also sign in as a guest if you just want to explore. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my free account. And when you sign in, you will have the option to either start a new project, open a project you've already worked on, or manage an existing project. When you first enter the database, it's going to ask you to start a new project. And from here, you will start by putting in locations. You can put in as many locations as you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and put in 19123 Northern Liberties, 19125 Fishtown, and I'm going to toss in that Queen Village, 19147. And then just for comparison's sake, I like to add the larger area. So your metro region, your closest city, or whatever you'd like for just general comparison. Click next. Then it will ask you if you'd like to include what they call seed variables so that you can get a general report based on just some basic information. So we might not care about housing built in 1939 or educational attainment, but we're really interested in household income and maybe households with over $100,000 income. So you can create your project, and from there, it's going to default to the zip code view of the first zip code that you entered. Up top here, you will see all those locations that you've entered, as well as those seed variables that you've asked for. And finally, it's auto sorting by census tract. That's the smallest area. So here we have our zip code outlined in yellow, And the census tracts are the other little areas here, so the other blocks. If you do it by zip code, it's not going to give you as much of a breakdown. I definitely recommend searching by the census tract. It's just more broken down. And then from there, you can always use Reference USA to draw that shape on the map. You always have that option to open a map. So you can just do this area here if you wanted to in Reference USA. So sure, we have our median income here. We have our highest income concentration in 19123, kind of in this general area. And you can scroll in and you can start to get a nice view of the streets, see what's going on, get a nice feel for where people are living. And you can scroll in and out from there. You can also see kind of adjacent if there's similar people. So our zip code is in yellow here, but we can see right across in the next zip code, there's still a lot of people with high income. So almost $100,000 to $454,000. Pretty good rates there. Finally, you have the option to add in more locations here. You have the option to search for data. Now, this is also a very strong demographics database. So this is really great that you can overlay demographic information with information on businesses. We'll get to that in a second. And of course, the information on businesses. So you'll see when you log into your account, you have a search. So you can see your search history. And you can also see your favorites, things that you favorited, because like I said, there are 75,000 data variables. So it's a really good idea to start favoriting information because you might not ever find it again. But here for businesses, you have the option to do an advanced search. You can search by name, SIC code, NAICS code, number of local employees, or sales volume, contains or starts with. And you can do multiples of that. So if you want to see their NAICS code as well as their sales volume, you can make a pretty good search that way. You can also search by business category like you can in Mergent Intellect. If you wanted to browse NAICS codes again, you can do NAICS or SIC. So here, if you wanted to take a look at the different NAICS codes for 722 again, the restaurants, we can go through and we can look at those, and you can see in that in the city how many there are, or in the area how many there are. So very customizable. I'm just going to go ahead and use the advanced search. I'm going to use the NAICS code for restaurants, our favorite. So here I'm selecting full service restaurants, I'm searching, and it is going to plot all of these yellow dots that are restaurants. And you can add as many industries as you'd like, and you'll see they show up here on the top. So looking at 19123, we have 3 restaurants right in this general area. And when you click on that 3, it will give you your full list of those businesses. You can either expand it or you can just view it as a list. If there's one business, say here on Spring Garden, it'll just give you that one item. So it's nice to add in data as well. I'm going to go ahead and say that you can keyword search, which is sometimes a little convoluted. You never kind of know what they're naming their data. I'd recommend browsing by, topic if you're specifically looking for things like, say, race and ethnicity or income. I would kind of pop up that topic, and then you can further keyword search, or you can explore more on the side, pulling up things like if you want to find people who are Black, it will pull up everything related to race and ethnicity as well as Black. And you can go through and you can say, all right, I want to find people who are the number of Black households. You can go ahead and you can select that. You can also click on these 3 dots to add it to your favorites or to view the metadata. So that will tell you how old the information is and where it's coming from. And from there, it will give you our rates of what we're looking for. So we have number of Black households from 2019, as well as our restaurant plotting. So you can see your target audience as well as your competitors in one nice map view. And there are so many different demographic options here. We're going to go over that a little bit more thoroughly on September 16th during our Introduction to Demographics class. And we also have the option, if you don't love maps personally, maps kind of give me a bit of a headache. You also have the option to view a comparison table. So here are all of our locations and our seed variables. You do have to add your data back in. So if you wanted to see this information with, for example, people who eat organic foods, we've added that in with our income and our locations. Pretty much across the board, almost pretty even. 19147 is a little bit higher. They also have the highest income. So if I were opening that grocery store and maybe was going to focus on organic foods, 19147 is probably a pretty good bet. You also have the option to view a ranking chart. So here it will rank it by census tract within a zip code, or you can flip it to the entire city and sort by zip code here if you were still looking to hone in a little bit more. And then you can click on the certain variable and you can sort it from, you know, largest to smallest or smallest to largest. So the highest income is 19106, which is Old City area. 55% of the households are over $100,000. And then again, if we wanted to look at our data in there, we can add in again that organic interest, and we can see where they're most likely to eat organic. So sure, the highest income is in Old City, but let's see largest to smallest. The most people who eat organic from 2019 is going to be that 19112 zip code with the median income of $75,000, which is still pretty high. So we could maybe explore that as well. We could add 19122, add it to our favorites, or add it to our locations and view the map so we can explore a little bit more about that area. And finally, we can look at our list of businesses as well. I think sometimes it's a little bit better to go ahead and add that in Reference USA or Mergent Intellect, but it is also an option, and it's all in one place with your demographics. And you can go ahead, you can export all of these pieces of information. You can export them to Excel files or a PDF if it's the map, and you can always save this information and access it anytime. And it's customizable. You can pull things where you want them to be in any of those views. And you can generate just a quick general demographic overview as well. If you don't want to make your own information, you can pull a quick report here for demographics or housing. Again, this is a very robust database, so I recommend exploring some of the data sets and business information on your own, and then you can always email us if you have more questions. Very fun database to use, though, one of my favorites. So now let's talk about Yelp. Yelp is not just about restaurants anymore. You can use it to find business information, including user experiences, reviews, and recommendations for things like restaurants, shopping, services, and more. For example, I read reviews of dentists a few weeks ago, and I found my dentist on Yelp. Very helpful. So conduct a keyword search using keywords about your business. From here, you can narrow the results further by redoing the search in the map or by clicking all filters. So here you can, sort by price, you can filter by location, you can search by category, features, and hone in by sort by your highest rated businesses, lowest rated, and really get some dirt. Once you open a competitor's Yelp page, you can find a lot more information about them. This information includes pictures, menus, hours of operation, customer reviews, and keywords that customers have used to find them. That is usually helpful under category. And it's also interesting because you can see how the business owners have responded and if they've responded. If they're really polite, if they're really adversarial, it's really fascinating. So it's okay if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all the resources that we've covered. The business librarians do offer guided research appointments with businesses that are currently operating. Before the free library closed due to COVID-19, we offered in-person appointments with a business librarian for up to 1 hour. While the free library is physically closed, BRIC is offering 40-minute appointments via Zoom, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Appointments are limited, and we can cover 2 of the topics listed on this slide during each appointment. We hope to expand the virtual appointments soon. We plan to offer in-person appointments again when it's safe to do so, but I do think virtual appointments are here to stay, at least as an option. The appointment request form is available at freelibrary.org/business. And when you click the link to complete the request to enter information into the form, you will see that it's not currently accepting responses, but there is a link to the new form. And the direct link to that virtual appointment request form is on this slide as bit.ly/virtualbric101, right down here at the bottom. But if you go to our website, it will direct you to the right place. Now that we learned how to begin our competitive analysis by creating lists of potential competitors, it's time to refine it. When searching for competitors, you need to define the scope of your search. Geographically, you need to decide if your competitors are local or more spread out. Factors include things like if your industry is brick and mortar or online, if your business depends heavily on foot traffic, like a pizza restaurant or a shop, or if you perform services remotely, like a consultant or a marketing professional, if you travel to clients, like a personal trainer or massage therapist, or if you have a more unique idea where people are more willing to travel to your business, like a top restaurant or a boutique fitness studio. Your target audience factors in when you consider who similar businesses are also targeting. Consider a health food store that's targeting customers with an interest in organic foods between the ages of 25 and 44. You could be competing directly, or you can decide to corner a different market and target users, say 45 to 64, with an interest in organic foods. If you want to learn more about demographics, don't forget I'll be teaching a demographics class on demographic research and finding your target audience on September 16th at 10 a.m. Of course, your industry is a large factor. Some industries are more competitive, like restaurants, where something like a boutique eyewear shop is less competitive because it's less saturated. However, it's also important to consider how many people eat out versus how many people purchase boutique eyewear. Your target audience is smaller. Finally, consider business size. Can your small cafe compete with Starbucks and other large cafes? Consider how it can compete based on location and products and services. Depending on your industry, you should have about 3 to 10 major competitors to explore in depth. As you begin to refine your list of competitors, dive a little deeper into those top most competitive businesses. Additional information on those businesses can be found in trade associations. For example, the Philly Mobile Food Association would be a good one to explore if you plan to open a food truck, or the Building Industry Association of Philadelphia for residential development and construction in the city. You should also explore blogs and websites related to your industry. Remember, your list is just a starting point. Continually refine your search and investigate beyond the search criteria by visiting your competitors' websites, reading reviews, visiting in person, and investigating any other relevant factors. Finally, narrow your competition to the 3 to 10 competitors who are most likely to directly affect your business. These are the businesses that you should profile in detail. They will appear in your final competitive analysis and/or business plan. Remember that more competitive industries like restaurants and daycares will have more competitors than, say, a mobile nail salon or a boutique eyewear store. But the market share is larger for a restaurant than for a boutique. The next 2 slides include useful tools to compare the potential competition. The competitive analysis matrix is a simple Excel sheet you can create by comparing the top traits of your industry to your top competitors to help identify and beat the competition. If you are opening a daycare, for example, some traits could be price, low instructor to child ratio, unique space, flexible pickup time, and special services like webcams, activities, and field trips. You would mark which competitors offer similar services. Those with the most checks would be your closest competitor. The next tool is a competitive analysis framework. This is also a spreadsheet, but it includes more specifics, which is helpful if you're further along in the business planning stage or if you're already operating. Here you can include specifics on the company, marketing and target audience, product offered, and market position. I like this tool for when you're really trying to edge out a competitor by studying their strengths and weaknesses across the board. This is also a great tool to use following the competitive analysis matrix for a bit of a deeper dive. It's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed right now. This class is meant to be an overview of resources available to you as you get started with your competitive analysis. The business department in the BRIC is here to support your search. We offer guided appointments with the businesses that are currently operating. And like I said, we did offer in-person appointments. We hope to bring those back someday soon. But for now, we can assist you with your research in market research, demographics, competitive analysis, and compiling sales lists. We can also point you in the right direction with our online learning platforms and business planning tools in general. You can always find more information on our website at freelibrary.org/business. If you're not currently operating or you're looking to take a bit of a deeper dive into business research, we do ask that you watch one of our webinars on Introduction to Business Plans on YouTube. Once you've watched the class, or if you attended a class or an orientation in the past, you can then request an appointment. And you can see all of our links on the page here. You can access those 5 business plan toolkit classes broken down by things like competitive analysis, demographics, market research, general business planning, and financials on our YouTube channel. The link is right here, bit.ly/business plan toolkit. We also have some other online classes like this one on the link here, bit.ly/BRICBizDigLib. You can definitely copy and paste that in. And of course, you can request an appointment if you have further questions. Pre-COVID-19, the BRIC offered classes and programs each month, and we began offering virtual programs via Zoom this April. Librarians like me teach the introductory and series classes. Business Plan Toolkit and a series class were generally offered once a month. For topics beyond the expertise of a librarian, we partner with other organizations to host programs and panels on topics like marketing, finance, and legal matters that are beyond the scope of a librarian. Please continue to bear with us as we navigate the virtual programming world. Business Plan Toolkit will remain a webinar for a while, as it is way too long for a virtual program. It's usually over 2 hours in person. So we've broken it into 5 parts on YouTube, and we plan to host 1 virtual series program each month. Please try not to feel overwhelmed by the amount of resources we've covered today, and we'd love to see you in our upcoming virtual classes as well. Thank you for attending Creating a Competitive Analysis today. We covered a lot of information, but you'll be sent the recording of this class. Remember, this class is meant to be an overview and a tour of the resources that you can access for free with your library card. Take some time to explore on your own and email bric@freelibrary.org if you have additional questions. We also encourage you to stay in touch via our website, freelibrary.org/business, via email, and on Twitter. You can always get the most information up to date by subscribing to our monthly newsletter as well. You'll see the links on the screen here. Again, thank you again for attending. It was great to have you, and come back soon. Bye-bye.